How's your day going there?
So far so good. It's been a pretty relaxing one. I had a nap this afternoon. Uh, then yeah, just kind of did some writing. It was a very lax day today.
I couldn't tell from your bio. Am I getting you from Winnipeg or you got out of Winnipeg?
Well, so according to the bio, yes, I got out of Winnipeg, but currently, right now, I'm back in Winnipeg.
Got it. Whereabouts in Winnipeg? Because as an American, you're trained to think, well, Winnipeg is just that big lot of land and there's nothing there. But then once you learn, all these big entertainers came out of Winnipeg. All these smart billionaires came out of Winnipeg. There's a lot there. It's just people that are kind of under the radar with their success.
Well, did you know Homer Simpson came from Winnipeg, technically?
You see, I didn't know that one. I was going to say Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, if you're a wrestling fan, Ken Mode, those superstars of punk rock, Ken Mode, who used to open for them. I knew. The family that owns Anthem Entertainment, I think, is there. Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Yeah, Bachman Turner Overdrive is also from here. The Guess Who, Neil Young.
Exactly.
Winnie the Pooh is technically Winnipeg. He's named after Winnipeg.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that one. But Homer Simpson, how is he from Winnipeg?
So he isn't in the show, like he's not written that he's from Winnipeg, but Matt Groening's father is from Winnipeg. And who is Homer based off of? But Matt Groening's father. So people from Winnipeg claim that Homer's technically from Winnipeg.
Wow.
Okay. There you go. Right?
So if Winnipeg was that essential to The Simpsons, professional wrestling, comedy, and entertainment, then hey, what world would we be living in without Winnipeg?
Right, we wouldn't have a world. That's the thing. Like we would be living in a void without Winnipeg.
Exactly. Well, I was hipped to your show, produced by the wonderful team at Banger. But I've only seen the first 4 episodes, so no spoilers to anyone watching this, hearing this, etc. No spoilers to me. But originally I was going to say, so Garrett, how much research did you have to do? Because were you a metal guy, but you're wearing a Pig Destroyer shirt, so it's not a gimmick.
No, it's not 100% a gimmick. I would say, like, I'm definitely not involved in it. I'm more in comedy, but like you said, my friends from Ken Mode have taken me on the road multiple times. So I've opened and lived in that world for good chunks of my life. So I am very familiar to also being a roadie and a comedian amongst metalheads, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess the research is there. Yes, and that's why I think Banger picked me up as a person to play this particular role.
Was the idea fully developed when you brought it to Banger, or did they have the idea and he brought you in? What's the process there?
So I'm not sure exactly who 100% came up with the original idea. I did not. I can answer you that right now. I did not come up with that. But I believe it was Brian Pico who works there. That's why, like, he's one of the writers, but he was one of the original guys, and he knows a person who works there named Blaine Smith. Blaine Smith is also a fellow comedian, and he has quite a few shows, I guess, on the Banger television channel on YouTube. And he knows that I toured with Ken Mode and that I was with these metal bands. So when Brian asked Blaine, he's like, "Do you want to help me write this? Who do you think we should get to star in this?" And Blaine suggested I did. So I show up, and we had a meeting. It was a great meeting, and we just riffed on some ideas. Unfortunately, Brian had some prior engagements to do, other documentaries. And then in came Mark Riccardelli, right? And he decided to direct it and also take over some of the writing. COVID, I guess we were supposed to start shooting at the beginning of COVID, but obviously that didn't happen. And we shot this just before Christmas this past year.
Oh, wow. So this is a during COVID actual production. I'm not saying that in shaming, that kind of way.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that, because thinking about it, there's never more than 2 people in a scene. It's totally feasible.
You'll notice that it's usually just myself and someone else who's not on camera. So it's usually just one person on camera. And then when you're in the car, you can't notice, but here's a little spoiler. But if you look at everyone's car right about the mirror, they all have something hanging from their mirror. and that's to hide the plexiglass that's actually dividing us. So there's a little movie magic for you, little movie magic.
A woke production crew, to say the least.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to shoot during COVID. Everyone had to wear masks, and me with my beard, I had a beard face for beard mask mouth. I don't know what you call it, actually.
Beard
head.
mouth. Great.
Yeah, beard mouth of some kind. Yeah, mask mouth, I guess.
Mask mouth. Well, as I alluded to earlier, metal it's not the only thing about this. In other words, it's not like you'd go, well, I don't like metal, therefore I'm not going to like this show. You can love metal and like the show. You can hate metal and like the show. It's very funny, very fast paced. It's bite-sized entertainment where it's 8-ish minutes per episode. You advance the plot along. How many episodes are made or going to be made?
So far there's 8 episodes, and it's the full story. So it's me picking up the guitar to whatever happens at the end of this story. So right now we're halfway through it, and I don't know, so by the time, I guess, people watching this, you probably know that the guitar has been stolen from me. Yes. So do I get it back? I don't know.
Do we get to see who Rager is? I don't know.
Who knows?
Does Rager have great songs that were written by actual musicians? I don't know either.
I actually don't even know the story of that. I can't even tell you the answer. It could be anything.
Yeah, the history of film and television is full of great fake metal bands. There's not a lot of fake hip hop groups from film and TV, but I think there's more fake metal bands in film and TV than any other genre.
There's got to be some fake hip hop groups. Well, I guess, yeah, because usually when I'm the one thing that I'm thinking of is Vanilla Ice and Ninja Turtles 2. And I guess he was real, and he was rapping at the same time as a big fight between the Ninja Turtles and those other bad guys. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well, the movie Fear of a Black Hat, they had a group, NWH, and CB4, Chris Rock had a group. I can't remember what it was called, but that's like 2. And then if we think about over time, of course, Spinal Tap was the first. I think there was an SCTV one.
It's funny that you mentioned that, but then a lot of these metal bands are joke bands, but they actually perform. They're in turn very real, like Spinal Tap, for example, Tenacious D, I guess. Like, even though they're not metal, but they do love Dio, I guess.
They do love Dio. Who doesn't love Dio? I mean, hey, in the first episode of your show, they're calling out a roadie story related to Dio.
Yeah. Did you notice also the joke? There's one big lighter, and then little Dio.
Yeah, I mean, there is probably 10 people in the history of rock that you've never heard one negative story about, and I think Dio would be there, unless you're going to tell me one, because I don't want to hear it.
No, I don't know any negative stories, and I don't want to know those negative stories.
Exactly. Just don't Google Dio talks about Vivian Campbell. That's another side story for another thing.
Are you going to tell me that story, or no? You're just going to leave it at that?
I'll let you Google that one. That's actually a funny thing. But I love the record label that you're part of, Comedy Records.
Oh yeah, me too.
I love the basketball theme that you guys have going on, and your nickname on the basketball card, Grandma Junior.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I don't know if there's a follow-up question, but if it's like what
just a compliment.
Yeah.
But
thank you so much. Yeah.
But the basketball cards and the theme, did you know that was coming, or did one day someone go, hey, click on this, and it was a nice surprise?
Well, the basketball cards I knew were coming because he said he had hired a artist. I didn't know what the image was. And then he said, if there's any nickname you'd want, please submit. And I also play softball on a team called the Baby Zeppelins. It's all comedians. And my name on it is Grandma Junior. And it's only because those are my initials, G and J, and Grandma and Junior are two. It's almost like an oxymoron and just kind of a funny. Those two words don't mean anything, but they're so funny together. So Agreed. I submitted that. And every time people read Grandma Junior, they get a good chuckle.
I did many a time here, but what really blows my mind about the record label is how supportive the comedians are of each other. I'm sure you could think of examples in the back of your mind of just American comedians feuding. American comedians like, he got that, well then I should get this, that kind of a thing. And that is not the vibe at all with Comedy Records. You guys are all pulling each other up.
Well, yeah, like if you actually comedy, you're alone on stage a lot of times, right? Especially if you're doing stand up, you're alone on stage. But people don't realize that you don't make it by yourself in this industry. And I think like we're kind of modeled, I guess, after the Wu-Tang Clan, if you will, right? Everyone does their own thing, but together they're a big, strong group. And but even the famous comedians, if you look at them, there might be solos, like you think of them as solos, but they're working with a larger group of comedians. So I think the people who are feuding with one another are forever going to be failures in my mind. But yeah, like our group is a beautiful group of very talented comedians here in Canada and some of the United States as well now.
Yes,
but yeah, Comedy Records, it's an amazing group.
Jay and Etan, how do you say his name?
Like a ton of bricks.
Oh, a ton of bricks. Okay, Etan
Yeah.
and Jay, Brooklyn-based, Canada roots. So yeah, they made it over.
Yeah, they made it over. Forrest Shaw is a comedian who's down there. He's part of the Comedy Records label. Yeah, and there's I know there's others. I can't think of them right now. But yeah, Jay and Etan, they used to be in my sketch troupe.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so initially we had a troupe called The Boom, and we were affiliated with Comedy Records. And then we saw like the end of our time as a troupe together coming to an end. So Jay and Etan continued doing their sketch type stuff, and I did stand up, and the rest is history. And we're with Comedy Records still, but as different entities.
Yeah, not everybody can make that transition from sketch to stand up. You did, well done. But
Thank you.
That comedian oriented softball team you mentioned before, are any of your roster label mates on that team with you?
At one time, DeBonus was a part of the team. Other than that, I don't think any of none of the others are actually on the softball team. But it's kind of interesting because it's comprised of, each team is like a different collective in the Toronto world. I'm part of a group that has no home, basically. So it's like we're called the Baby Zeppelins, just named after a baby. The other ones are named after like the different institutions, like Comedy Bar, or a faction also of Second City, the Improv there. But yeah, so like there's different groupings. And the best part is all the teams are comedians, but there's one team that's comprised of no comedians at all. And guess what their names are, or their team name is?
I can't guess. Do tell me.
The Hecklers. How beautiful is that? And they're the best team, and they slaughter every Of
Wow.
course they're called the Hecklers. Yeah.
Wow. Where I'm going with all the softball talk here is, as a hard rock and metal kind of guy, I've been surprised to learn over the last 9 months, when I'm taping interviews like 6-7 days a week lately, how integral, do you say integral?
I never have said integral once, but integral, yes.
How integral softball has been in a lot of hard rock and metal worlds. Like, for example, there's this guy named Jesse Harms who played keyboard for Sammy Hagar for 20, 30 years. He also played for David Lee Roth. And I was talking to him and finding out, how'd you wind up in this? And he goes, well, there was a softball game amongst the musicians in the LA area in the mid 80s. And that led me to getting in this guy's band to this one. And then if you go back to the 70s, the Hollywood Vampires, which was Alice Cooper's social group, Mickey Dolenz and Keith Moon and all that, supposedly they were a softball team.
Really?
Yeah.
So together, okay. So like, but I think it makes sense because softball is one of those sports that you can easily have beers and maybe multitudes of drugs if you wanted to, right? While you're playing. So I think that's why, and you don't need any talent to actually play softball. Like, you really don't. You
Really?
just, like it's almost zero talent to play softball. Like, I guess you do have to have some motor skill of like hitting the ball, but even that, you don't have to hit you can just stand out in the field. You can pick daisies, just get drunk. That's all softball is.
I didn't think of it like that, because I was thinking if you were staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning and then your softball game was at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, you'd be rusty and not able to make it onto the field.
Well, here's the thing. So like like someone asked me if I wanted to play, and I was like, yeah, I'll play, right? And then I gave over the $100 or whatever it was to get my jersey and hat and like to sign up for the fees. And I was really regretting it. I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, why did I sign up to this? Now this takes over my Saturdays. And yeah, like some of the games are at 10 in the morning, right? And they're from 10 to 5, depending on when you're scheduled. And I was like, yeah, like Friday nights, I'm usually performing. And
right.
Well, anyway, our first game was 11. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. And I show up and it's all my friends. I'm like, why? Like, you're hanging out with your friends. And where we play, we're right beside a chocolate factory. So the smell of chocolate is in the air. And it's just like we're in a little secluded area, and it's wonderful. And yeah, I love playing softball.
Softball also factored a lot into Seinfeld. Were you a big Seinfeld fan?
I'm a semi-big Seinfeld fan. I got on the train in the rerun era.
Okay, well, in the rerun world, the rerun spectrum, there was the Bette Midler in the softball game one. That was Jerry, I guess, was on the comedy club softball team. I'm so intrigued to find out about comedians playing softball, because usually if you go through the old stereotypes of comedians, the old stereotype was they're the last people picked. They were the people who couldn't do sports, and that's why they turned to comedy. I'm guessing comedy's evolved, and now you just can't pigeonhole who's a comedian anymore.
No, you have some superstars out there. You have some guys who I think played actual AAA ball. But our team is the team that gets picked last. Except our team is the team that everyone wants to play against, because honestly, we're the funniest of all the teams, right? Yeah, our motto is "Don't be sad." We put our hands in the middle, and it's like on the count of 3, "Don't be sad." And so much so that our team, well, like, I don't know about if it was this, but just based off of who our team is and who we have on it, we entered into a contest with Budweiser to play with some former Toronto Blue Jays, like Joe Carter and who's the guy? Now I forget the guy's name. Roberto Alomar. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, and we ended up winning because of our personality. Like, you had to send in videos, and since we're a bunch of comedians, we put this together, and we got to play softball with Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter.
Joe Carter, who hit that infamous home run that won the World Series in 91, 92?
92 or 93. Yeah, that's correct.
Wow. It's so good to hear that you guys are funnier than the hecklers, because
I know
would be a huge problem if the hecklers were funnier.
I would have to change my career for sure if the hecklers were funnier than us. Yeah. But we're also not getting paid. So, like, you know what? Maybe that's the case. Maybe they're funnier on the field.
They work blue. I don't know. Whatever it is. Whatever it is.
The funniest guy on third base.
So you got this show. And when I speak to people and I say, hey, so what are you working on? You hear everything from, well, I haven't worked in 4 years and this movie was made 2 years ago and it's a hold off, to, oh man, I've used this time to develop my new thing and I've got 20 things and I'm touring. I never stopped touring. Where are you at? Is this show the most recent thing that you did and there's more in the can, more coming up?
Yeah, like for this thing, this was the most recent thing for sure. But tied with that is I had an album release at the same time as filming this, and it's called Garrett Jamieson and Spraticus. So it's with a band, and the album is called Born Crying, Die Laughing. So it's basically my stand-up mixed with music. It's all I don't know, choreographed is the appropriate thing to say, choreographed when it's with music. Constructed.
Arranged?
Arranged would probably be the best word. Yeah. So it's
synchronized.
It's not synchronized. So it's not just like free jam. Like, it's not just like, oh, we'll play anything. You just say stuff. It's actually coordinated or arranged, if you will. And yeah, it's definitely not a lot of singing. It's more joke telling.
We've seen amazing collaborations between comics and bands on stage. We've seen terrible ones. For example, I'll say Jim Brewer. I don't know if you've ever saw the stuff he did. It's great.
Yeah.
Sam Kinison with a band on stage, Not great.
Not so good. But I do have that album. I do have the album where he sings Mississippi Queen in that, and
the song, but
but not meant for him. But yeah, this is yeah. So it's not like so much like Jim Brewer or when the guy who smokes cigarettes, Sam Kinnison's friend who died, Bill Hicks. That's who I'm thinking. Bill Hicks when he did that, or even like Mitch Hedberg that just had the stand-up bass player.
Yes.
So it's not like that. This is actually like it's in between actual written music, songs, and sort of free jazz talking over top of music and musicians kind of free playing. It's in the middle. It's we won a Canadian Comedy Award doing this. Which means nothing in the States, but
that that's an interesting thing right there, because take something like Letterkenny, which your label mate K-Trev is on. It's not mainstream here. From what I gather, it's not mainstream in Canada either.
No.
But those who've seen it love it to the point that they're fanatical about it. And it's kind of like, would you rather have that diehard fan base or just have that passive thing like, yeah, he's funny?
I'd rather have the diehard fan base, because I've been with K-Trev like performing at colleges, let's say, like opening for him, and it's amazing, like the support that he gets. Like kids will like hang out after and wait in a line to talk to them, and they all have the same experience where they're like, oh, I come from a small town and now I'm here at this college, and like your show is my life.
Yeah, well, in terms of the Canadian Comedy Awards, I also can't think of a country that had more of an impact on comedy for the world for 50 years than Canada. It's the kind of thing where, Moranis and all the Second City people and Schitt's Creek and Kids in the Hall. It is kind of a shame that Americans don't realize that all this stuff came from Canada. Jim Carrey is Canadian.
Oh yeah, Mike Myers is Canadian, right? But I think it's because why Canadians are so funny is because we are so much like Americans. But then when we come down there, America is that much different that we go, hey, you guys notice you do this, right? And Americans are like, oh, we do this, right? Like, so I think we have an outside looking in kind of perspective, but when we do come there, we're very observant on how different it is. So it's much easier for a Canadian to be funny, I think, in America.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Before COVID, I was able to do a lot of press trips where a city flies you out, and in turn, you're going to write a certain number of articles. So I was in Fredericton. Have you ever been to Fredericton? Okay.
That's a thumbs up. Yeah. Yes, I have been
performed at that theater in Fredericton?
Not the theater. I've only performed in bars in Fredericton.
Okay, yeah, it was interesting to me. I saw Jeremy Hotz. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Jeremy Hotz.
Lives in LA, I think, but is like an all-time great stand-up comedian in Canada. Like a headliner, that kind of a thing. So it's very interesting for me to watch that show and see how it was such a patient audience. That audience was there to have a good time. You did not have to fear as a comic there would be one heckler in that audience.
Right.
It was just one of those, the affirmed Canadian stereotype of, oh, they're polite.
Oh, they just all sat there like with their arms, not even arms crossed, just arms on their or hands on their laps and like smiling politely.
Yeah, he could have had material that was rotten, which he didn't. But the crowd would say, well, oh, he's such a nice guy. We like him.
Yeah, we like him. And yeah, that's the way that's how comedy is in Canada. It's just being overly polite, and everyone in the audience being overly polite and like nodding.
Exactly.
A heckler is somebody who laughs a little too loud here in Canada. Hey, settle down, buddy.
Exactly. Well, with your show, have you been getting a lot of feedback internationally from, say, Europe, where metal is in Germany? Metal is the mainstream.
Well, yeah, like we had. I don't know if you saw the first episode, but I'm telling my girlfriend, like talking to her or leaving a message, being like, we can get a beach house in Belarus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on the YouTube thread, people from Russia and Ukraine were arguing on where's a better place to get a beach house, which I found pretty funny. Yeah, they're like, you should come to Ukraine and live here. And I'm like, well, I was watching that. I was like, I don't know if you guys know what's going on right now in Ukraine, but I don't think a beach house there would be appropriate right now. But the point is,
I've heard Croatia is actually the one to go to.
Oh, it's true. I've also heard that, surprisingly, and that's been the past 15 years I've been hearing about this. I have a friend who's Croatian, so they've been going off about how great Croatia is.
Well, those are the dreams for when there's a season 2 of the show, because let's face it, no matter how you wrap up the season, which I'm curious to see, no matter what happens, you could say, oh, this is just 8 episodes. There's a way. If there can be Eddie and the Cruisers 2, when he was already dead in the first movie.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. So hopefully there's a season 2 where you've been already a roadie for 3 years and you're now considering your jump, or Rager asks you to join the band. Whatever happens, I hope there's a season 2.
Can you give a speculation on what you think is going to happen?
I think that he is going to get to Toronto. How he gets to Toronto, that I can't tell you. But I think that all the people that he's run into so far are going to somehow be at that gig. You don't have to say.
They're in the crowd. I like this. I like where your mind is at.
Yeah, I think it's really refreshing.
You can maybe help out writing season 2.
Hey, I've been a fan of Banger for 13 years or however long Headbanger's journey was. So you're working with great people. So my last 2 questions, because you've been so generous with your time on a Sunday. First question.
I know, and Oscar night of all nights.
Oscar night and Impact Wrestling's pay-per-view where Kenny Omega is challenging for the championship. That's a twofer.
Yeah, there's a twofer going on right now.
Actually, what's that thing? What's the highest honor you can get in Winnipeg? Isn't it called like the head of the Buffalo Order?
Yeah, and Chris Jericho has that. He got that, right? Oh, Roddy Piper's also from Winnipeg. I forgot to say that.
Blown my mind here. Blowing my mind. Well, question 1 of 2 before I let you go. What's one TV show besides yours that we all should be watching?
One TV show that besides mine, it's no longer on, but I think you can find it on Amazon. It was on Netflix. It's called Peep Show.
Oh, great British comedy.
Yeah. Peep Show or Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, also British comedy.
Also a good one, sure. And the closing question for you, Garrett. Any last words for the kids?
Any last words for the kids or just kids in general?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, stay away from poisoned drugs.
Not Poison the band.
Not Poison. Yeah. And the song "Poison" by Alice Cooper. It's also great. It's an earworm, that one.
Not only is that a great song, but it's got all these weird key changes that you go like, how can he sing that live?
Right. Well, it's because at that time he's probably doing a costume change or having his head taken off from. Right? And then the guillotine takes his head off, or he gets hanged. Alice Cooper dies like 50 times in a show.
The guillotine, he does get strapped. The nurse tries to kill him. I think we've seen him 4 or 5 times. There's an 8x10 of Alice Cooper behind me.
Oh, nice.
I can't think of when or how many times, but thank you so much for your time, and just keep up the greatness on everything you're doing. Looking forward to seeing you, whether it's live in New York, the next show, the next album, whatever it is. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks. And I'll see you soon in the future. Bye-bye.
Paltrocast.